This is a production of Gordon College's Scott Radio.
Scott Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Ben Schneider, back at it again for another episode of The Ben Schneider Show, episode 14. We've got a great guest for you guys today. It's Sebastian Toro, Gordon Men's cross-country and track captain. So, Toro, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, Ben. Hey, what's up, everyone? I love y'all, whoever's listening out there.
Yeah, you used to have your own show, right?
I used to, back in the day.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, back sophomore year, Aaron Lewis and I, shout out to Aaron Lewis, one of the craziest musicians I know, producers as well. Hit him up. He does really good production. Him and I are very, very into hip hop, and so we had a hip hop hour on Scott Radio. I forget what day, I forget what time, but it was really cool. We had it pretty structured in the sense that we talked about current events that was happening in hip hop, special topics like women in hip hop, the LGBTQ community in hip hop. We would play songs, we would play music, either relating to the topic or that had a little bit to do about the conversation. And then we always try to have a guest, so it would always be at least 3 people in the studio. And that guest didn't know it, but we always had the last 5-10 minutes of the show. It was kind of like Sway in the Morning, like a freestyle. Like we would throw on the production, we would throw on a beat. They didn't see it coming, but they had to freestyle over the beat. Nice. And so some people were prepared and they knew that they knew they had to have something written, they had to have something ready. Other people had no idea what to do. We had someone, I think they rapped Let It Go, or they freestyled Let It Go, or the Happy Birthday song. They just had no idea. So it was a good time. It was fun. Back sophomore year, so like 2 years ago now.
Sure. Yeah, so we had a meet at Bowdoin College on Saturday. First indoor meet Gordon's had in a while. It was a so-so meet for me, I thought. I know you PR'd, so you probably had a pretty good time. Tell me a little bit about how your events went.
Yeah, so first of all, Ben, I'm sorry that it went so-so. I didn't realize that.
Well, I'll tell you what happened after.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I ran the 3,000 meter, the 3K on the indoor track, which is 15 laps around an indoor track. So it feels like you're turning for a little bit. You're just going around in circles. But it was pretty good. I personally wasn't 100% sure how I was gonna do. I've been struggling with a shin splint for the past 3 weeks now, I would say. And so I've been doing a lot more cross training. I've been doing a lot more pool running. I've been doing a lot more elliptical, all that jazz. And so it's been a little bit mentally tough just because, I want to be running. And I feel like I'm my most fit when I'm running. But, combined with the lifting and the cross training, I was still able to manage to PR, which was super nice. I'm ahead of where I was last, conference championship of last track season. That's where my 3K PR was. And so, during warm-up, I was nervous. I felt like I felt pretty exhausted from the week. I don't know why. I guess the workouts were getting to me, or I was just mentally not there. But once I was back inside, I felt the hype. I felt the energy. I felt a lot of people were expecting good things from me. Even coach expected me to go under 10 minutes. That was my goal. My goal was to go under 10 minutes, and then my secondary goal was to PR. And then my reach was about a 9:40, 9:45. So not a bad race. I stepped on the line, and then from the gunshot, I felt that competitive hunger again. Straight into the top 2-3 positioning. Obviously, I didn't hold it, but I was able to pop off. And when I pop off, I know I'm in the race. And I was in the race for I would say at least 7-8 laps with 2 other guys, and they were pulling me along, and I felt smooth. I felt good. It wasn't until the last 800 meters where I should have got more grittier, and that's where I kind of lost touch with the other competitors.
Yeah, was that an overall PR or just
overall
wow.
PR? Yeah,
thank
you. By 3 seconds overall PR. I've never ran under 9:56 until this past Saturday. I ran 9:53.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I did the 800. We had, I think the kid was leading the race, and one of the officials was sweeping the jump pit. I guess there's some dirt that had been pushed onto the track, and he was going out to sweep as the leaders were coming by.
I heard about this.
He just totally got his legs swept out from under him.
Yep.
And it slowed. I mean, Evan was in the lead pack. We were, Philip and Diaz were a little bit further behind, obviously. But it completely halted their momentum. And I felt bad for the kid because his race was over at that point.
Yeah.
And even then, I think he hit his head on the ground.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, clearly shaken up. He tried to get back up and start again, but then he fell back to his knees and was still in the first lane. So we even had to, even though we were a good bit behind, we had to go into the second lane to get around the corner. But yeah, just not really anybody in my range aside from Philip and Andre. Because there's a fine line between wanting to get a good start and see if you can hang and push yourself and not wanting you to go out too fast. And I feel like, Diaz and I really just started racing each other around the second and third lap, not really focusing on time. So I feel like if I hadn't fallen asleep as much as I had during the middle part of the race, I probably could have run a couple of seconds faster. But it's only my second indoor 8 ever. The first was Wesleyan, which is usually indoors anyway because of
snow
the weather,
and weather
this time of year. But that was freshman year. I did a 2:36, so I figured I was going to at least PR. The goal
indoor.
was to see how. PR and indoors. To clarify, goal was just to see how massive of a PR I could get. So I would have liked to go a little bit faster, but it's the first meet, just really a tune-up meet. So we'll see how the season goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. I mean, I was happy with everyone's performances, and everyone just was more of a meet to get hungry, meet to get those competitive. Yeah,
I'm glad we did it because I think everybody's, once we get back from spring break and get into a real competition season, everybody's already going to have the experience under their belts. So I think that'll help us.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sorry, I pulled up actually the results of this past meet. I was just curious. I haven't even looked at the results of the men's 800 meter.
Yeah.
Evan
was up there in that lead pack.
Was the did not finish kid the guy who got swept?
Yeah.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah. So I didn't. Evan probably knows a little bit better because he was up there. But yeah.
Was this split into 2 heats or how many heats?
There were 2 heats.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was actually all 4 of us were. Yeah, the first heat was like stupid fast.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, they all went 1, 2, 3, 1. At least 6 people.
The winner
went
did a 158, which to put that into context, our indoor school record is a 158. So
wow,
they had some really fast guys.
This was a very competitive meet.
It was.
It was a very competitive meet. Yeah. I mean, I looked at the results of last year, and I saw a bunch of guys went sub 9:30 for the 3,000, and I was like, oof, this is gonna be a tough one to race. But I personally didn't do too bad, and based on the 800, I mean, overall, I mean, you got a 10-second PR in the indoor. So
yeah.
What's your overall 800 PR?
I guess open it's 2:17. When we did the SMR, we broke the school record in that last year. I did a 2:15 split, but I had a running start.
Yeah. So that's pretty
good
anyway.
But
I mean,
but then I think I did a 2:17 because I did the 800 later that day. So if I hadn't had 800 meters on me already, I probably could have gone 1 or 2 seconds faster in the open 8 as well. So yeah, 2:15, 2:17. That's what I'd say would be my PR. And then you did the 4x4 too, right?
Yo, I forgot about that 4x4.
Were you planning on that, or were you an alternate?
I was not planning on that until the day before our meet Saturday. So Friday, Coach pulls me aside. He pulls JVB, Jonathan, and I aside, and he's like, "I want one of you two to run the 4x4." And then between the two of us, I had a faster 400 time than Jonathan, and so he gave it to me, even though I was gonna come off a 3K. Regardless, Jonathan was sick, so he wasn't able to make it to the meet. But it's because Josh Crowder, his hamstring, he's been having a little bit of it's not torn or anything, it's not strained, but it was definitely like pulled or tweaked, and so we just didn't want to risk the popping, that
especially
popping
when it's early in
motion.
the season.
Exactly. We rather play it safe. And I think he did the smartest thing, to be honest. I think he really did the smartest thing. For me, it was, I'm not a 400 runner. I kind of look ugly out there when I'm running a 400. But regardless, it was like I finished the 3K. I had to go change from my split shorts to spandex. And then I had to get ready and just hop on the line for another 2 laps. I feel like I got some good turnover. I tried really, booking it. But at the end of the day, I think we all recognize, for me, that was more of a mini workout than an actual split or race or whatever you want to call it. Because I was gassed from the 3K. I was very, very tired, whatever you want to call it. But it was fun. I was glad I was able to help out the team in that sense, the B team at least. That we weren't the A squad, the B team. But apparently the B team, we were right around where our A team was last year, which is kind of shocking and I guess impressive to see where the team is heading right now.
Yeah, I still remember Regis last year because you and Chandler had just done that 5K.
Regis is a special meet for me.
Yeah, and then we were about to start the 4x4, and you were just gassed. Obviously, Chandler's the first alternate for that. He's gassed as well, and so I'm standing here in my jacket thinking I'm done for the day, and Coach looks at me and he says, "Hey, Schneider, are you warm?" And I'm like, a little bit. Yeah. And that's when I knew I was going to have to race. Yeah. So again, that wasn't really like a
planned thing or whatever. Yeah.
Just going out to do that for fun and see what I could do with not a whole lot of warm up, but.
Yeah, that's the thing with track, man. You never know what events you're gonna end up doing on the track. You always gotta be prepared for whatever coach wants you to do, especially when it comes to relays.
Yeah, there's always a lot of pressure on the relays just because you've got 3 other guys that are counting on you to put your work in.
Very, very true.
Yeah. Well, Toro, I guess just to start, I know you're from New York.
Born and raised Queens, New York. Shout out to East Coast.
Yeah, but I don't know too much about your early years before Gordon beyond that. So just tell me a little bit about growing up there in the city. And
you're asking for a lot. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Just whatever you have to share.
Yeah, that's fine. I born and raised Queens, New York. My mama and my pops, they traveled from Colombia to New York City because they wanted a better life for me. They wanted me to be born in an area and in a country that had some sort of opportunity, at least more opportunity than back home in Colombia. To give a little bit of context, this was around the latter years of the drug wars of the Medellin cartel that was happening with Pablo Escobar and all these narcotraficantes and all that jazz. For anyone who's seen Narcos, that is a pretty dramatic but pretty historically accurate description of what was happening in Colombia at the time. But yeah, my parents, like any context, they're legally here now. Like, I don't want anyone thinking that my family's illegal. We are legally here in this country. They have paper. They're citizens. But at the time of my birth, they weren't, which is a whole other story. My pops got deported when I was about 6 or 7, and he got killed back in Colombia. Which is completely fine. I mean, it's part of my story at this point. It's part of what happened. And my mom was a single mother in Queens, New York, raising me. She flew out my grandmama. My grandmama was able to get a visa. So my grandma raised me as my mom was working overtime. My mom's always been a chauffeur her whole life. So she's been driving taxis, driving, private car, rich people who could afford these kinds of luxuries or whatever. And yeah, my grandmother was the one who raised me throughout elementary school, middle school. I did Taekwondo for 8 or 9 years, ever since I was like about 6 years old. That was something special in my heart. It really made me who I am, because my Taekwondo instructor, he learned the art in Colombia, and he brought the art to inner city Queens, in this neighborhood called Jackson Heights. In Jackson Heights, it's just a bunch of Latino kids, a bunch of Mexican kids, Colombian kids, Dominican kids, Central American kids. And we all had that same story, that our parents put us, or our mamas put us in this Taekwondo class to get off the street and make sure we're not we have something to do after school. because that was a big issue back home, is that there was kids getting involved in the street life because they didn't have something to do after school. Like, their parents are always working, immigrant parents working, doing their thing, and what else would a kid do? One of my closest friends, John, shout out to John, him and I are still very, very good friends. But in middle school, he was what's the word I'm looking for? He was like playing with fire. He was hanging out with people who were involved in the blood gang, and he himself got arrested in the 8th grade or 7th grade. And it was hard for me personally seeing him in handcuffs at such an early age. But that was just kind of like the lifestyle I was surrounded by back home. It was just the normal. And so I guess I really love my city, and I appreciate where I came from, because I saw a lot of things a lot of people don't see, and I learned a lot of things a lot of people don't learn. And at the end of the day, every little thing, I think, makes me who I am. And my Taekwondo instructor, just circling back, he was my father figure for when my father wasn't around. And so I really looked up to him, and he really made me who I am as well. His name's Ruben Suarez. I have a lot of love for that man. And after that, middle school came around. Fun fact, I did jazz band in middle school. Not my proudest moments, but had fun with it. I had aspirations of going to Frank Sinatra High School, LaGuardia High School. For those of you who don't know, those are very top-notch performing arts schools in New York City. That's where the only person I know who went there is Nicki Minaj. But still, like, there's a lot of people who come from these performing arts schools. But I couldn't afford my instrument. I used to play baritone saxophone. I couldn't afford my instrument. Therefore, I wasn't able to go up to performing arts school. So I ended up going to my 5th choice school. And to explain a little bit, when you're in middle school, you apply to high schools just like you apply to college. You look for the program you're interested in, and you just apply to it, and then you hope that you get in. And if you don't get into anything, then you go to your zone school, the school that's like closest to you. Sorry if I'm talking too much.
No,
but I'm just kind of like going for
Keep
that.
going, yeah.
And so I got into my 5th choice school. I got denied by 4 of my top choice schools. Got into my 5th choice. Shout out to Bayside High School. And it was a good school. I mean, I ended up going. I planned on playing soccer and basketball and volleyball, but I missed the soccer tryouts at the time because I was over with my family in Colombia, and so I ended up joining cross country, and this is where my running story begins. I joined cross country, and ever since then, I just continued running, and I went straight into indoor and outdoor, and I realized I had potential. When I was a freshman in high school, I was in the top 5 freshmen in New York City, like in the city throughout for the 2 mile. When I was a junior in high school, when I was a sophomore as well, I was the top cross country runner in Queens, which was like a really cool position to hold. And then senior year came around. Senior year, I was in the top 8 overall in New York City, which was also a really cool position to hold. Never made states. Never. New York City is a very slow section when it comes to cross country. The top guys are running 1740s at most. And there's other high schoolers around the United States that are running like 16s, 15s.
Sure.
So New York City is a slow area. But for my little bubble, I felt like I was pretty fast, running 1751, I think was one of my PRs in high school. But yeah, and so I continued running through, and New York City is one of the only areas in the United States that has the steeplechase in high school. And I started steepling when I was a freshman. So I hold the freshman record back in my high school, as well as the outdoor steeplechase overall 3K record in my high school as well. And I came into college already knowing how to steeple. And so that's how I became a steepler. I was the 10th best steepler in New York City, which was also something cool to have. And so that's like a little bit about my running story. And then I guess another fun fact before I forget, I ballroom danced for 5 years. New York City, yeah.
Nice.
New York City public elementary schools have a program called Dancing Classrooms. It was started by Pierre Dulaine, this Frenchman who wanted to teach young boys and girls social skills and how to like interact with the opposite gender at a very young age, so you wouldn't be, I guess, awkward or whatever you want to call it. And so we did ballroom dancing in the 5th grade, and my elementary school, we compete throughout other elementary schools, and then we ended up getting like second in the city, which was something cool. I specialized in the tango with my partner, and then I got a scholarship in a sense to continue dancing, and I danced at Dancing Classrooms Academy in Herald Square in Manhattan, and I would go every weekend to take classes, and I would still compete and all that jazz, and I met a lot of really cool people there. Very similar story. A lot of like Hispanic kids, Black kids who were able to continue dancing through this program. Shout out to Victoria Vidal. She's one of my closest friends back home, and I met her through Dancing Classrooms, which was super, super cool. And yeah, and I continued doing that for 5 years, and it's just a little cool skill I have that I guess, I learned how to interact with the opposite sex because of it. So
Yeah, I got to ballroom dance last year.
At Gordon?
I took. Well, it was frustrating looking back on it because they axed the physical
PE?
education
Yes.
requirement right after I took
Yes.
my class. But I don't regret it. It was actually my favorite class that I took. I guess it was only the 3rd quad last year. But especially fun because Eddie's the TA for that class.
Yes, he is.
So
shout out to Edison.
Yeah.
He's our throwing coach. He's a really good guy, really good dancer too. I took that ballroom dance class when I was a freshman.
Okay.
So I think 3 years ago now I took that class with Miss Tina.
Yeah.
And it's a fun class. It's
Yeah,
a very
it is.
fun class. And even after that, I would pop in just to say hi, just to do whatever. I took it because I already knew how to dance, and so I figured out why not. But regardless, it's such a great class, and it's frustrating that PE got removed and got cut and all that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your story coming to Gordon. What the whole college search looked like for you, and coming to join the teams here.
Yes, I could definitely talk. That's a little bit of a long story, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on going to college. My family and we couldn't afford college, and so I was thinking potentially community college, but if not, just going straight to work. I did graduate with a diploma in nonprofit management in my high school, because my high school was becoming a career technical high school where we could kind of like start working right off the bat. And so one of my teachers at high school was trying to set me up to be a project manager. But this kind of ties into like my faith story in a sense, because I wasn't really a Christian growing up. And it wasn't until my senior year that I became a Christian. My mom started going to this church. No, it was first my stepdad. So at the time, my stepdad and my mom were dating and whatnot, and he started going, so she started going. And then I eventually started. They invited me, and I eventually started going. First time I go to church, I was super skeptical because I just didn't know what Christianity was, what faith was, all that jazz. And so I was like, oh, whatever. And the sermon was cool. It was whatever. And then this guy comes up to me and is like, hey, do you want to receive prophecy? And I was super skeptical. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he starts talking to me, and that's why I realized it wasn't him talking. It was God talking to me. Because the first thing that God tells me is, I brought you here, my child, for a reason. And don't you worry, my child, you're not going to pay a single cent for your future. And when he said that, I just started crying because I was like, how is this random person going to know what me and my parents are going through and what my family's going through? And ever since then, I started going to church, trying to figure out what Christianity is, who Jesus is, who God is. And for those of you, wondering, I like my church is like has Pentecostal principles. So it's we believe in the Lord blessing you through the Holy Spirit, with the gifts of prophecy, gifts of healing, gifts of teaching, speaking in tongues, all that jazz. And so I was, I started trying to figure this out. In the meantime, this was around the time I was applying to colleges and schools and whatnot. Do you know about the not Blackboard, that's Gordon, the College Board search engine? Yeah. So I put everything I wanted into school, and Gordon was the first school that popped up. And so I was like, oh, I don't know what Gordon is, but sure, I'll like apply to it. It has things I want and whatever. And I applied to it. Mind you, I didn't even know what a Christian school was. Like, I didn't know that such a thing existed, because back in Queens, there's a school called St. John's University I live by. And St. John's University is a Catholic affiliated school, which to me means like, all right, like they have like Catholic principles, but you still see Muslim students, you still see Jewish students, you still see all kinds of students. And so I remember one of my first conversations with a Gordon admissions counselor, like we're just talking on the phone, and they tell me about like, oh, faith and Christianity and what, like asking me about my faith, and I'm like, yo, like, yeah, but okay, but you guys have like Jewish students and Muslim students, and they're like, no, we only have Christian students. And I was so confused, super confused. And like, now that I look back at it, I was pretty embarrassed of not knowing that, but it's just something I was used to. I was used to having all these different cultures around me. I mean, Ryan, one of my closest friends, he back home, he's Hindi, and it's just like, you know, it's normal. Like, it's normal to be interacting with everyone from everywhere. And I applied to Gordon. It wasn't my top choice. It was like safety school, you know, just whatever. I applied to 12 other schools, 12 or 13 other schools.
Wow.
I got into, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to crap on New York City public schools, but the New York City public school education system, like my high school was about 3,500 to 4,000 students, and there was only 13 guidance counselors for all those students. So we don't have college counselors, and we don't have people guiding us on how to do this correctly. So I kind of had to figure everything out on my own. And so I kind of just like tried doing it. You know, someone told me, oh, do like 3 safety schools, 3 target schools, and like 3 reach schools, or like 3 to 4, like safety, target, reach, whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I applied to all these schools. And the one thing was, none of these schools was like offering me enough financial aid or, you know, enough scholarship. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I get called to go to Gordon for the Clarendon program. And I was like, okay, I'll go check it out. Gordon flies me out for Clarendon Day, right? And I get to Clarendon Day, and there's 80 students. And the Clarendon program only accepts 10 students every year. So there's 80 students competing for 10 spots. And I meet so many amazing people. I'm like, no way am I going to get this, right? And then I go through the process. You know, it's a bunch of like paperwork. It's a group interview. It's a personal interview. And then you're just interacting with people throughout the whole day. Long story short, a month later, I get a call from Rachel Henderson. She's the one that gives me the news. And she's like, hey, Sebastian, I'm sorry to say, but congratulations. You're in the Clarendon program. And when I got that call, I started crying because at that moment, I knew that what God says becomes true. Because I remembered back about a year earlier how God was like, and don't you worry, my child, you're not going to pay a single cent for your future. And the Clarendon program's full tuition. It's a full tuition scholarship. And for me, it was such a blessing. And that's when I really realized God wanted me there for a reason. And it was the only Christian school I applied to, too. So that's when I realized even more, like, God wants me at Gordon for a reason. So that's how I ended up coming to Gordon. Mind you, I had a teacher who told me, you're never going to succeed in college. Like, you're wasting your time because you're not prepared for college level work, which was the craziest thing. And then a guidance counselor who told me, oh, like, you shouldn't even be looking at, like, you know, private out-of-state schools. You should be looking at community colleges or city schools. But I wanted to reach, you know, I wanted to push myself a little bit.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so tell me about how you got involved with obviously you had a running background, but tell me about the first time you interacted with Coach Weichert and how you've seen the cross-country and track teams grow from your freshman year to now as a senior.
Yeah, so I love Coach Weichert a lot. When I came to visit Gordon, I met Coach, I don't even remember his name. Oh, Carter. Sorry, I'm not gonna talk badly, but I met Coach Carter. I met Coach Samantha, who were the previous coaches before Coach Weichert, the Weichert generation, as I like to call it. And they were interesting. It didn't seem like they cared all that much, but I didn't know what to expect. I thought maybe I just had a bad impression or whatever. And I get to camp, and mind you, I have no communications over the summer, nothing. Like the summer before I came in as a freshman to Gordon. No communication, nothing. I didn't know what to expect. And then the first time I met Coach Weichert was not moving day. It was cross-country moving day, I would say. Because I moved in for Clarendon like a week earlier before cross-country runners came in for moving day. And I met Coach Weichert because he met us for lunch, I think. And I remember, I don't know why, but I remember that we were eating like a sandwich. It had like a lot of bread on it. And I think that was my first moment of like realizing Lane puts too much bread and not enough substance in their sandwiches. But I remember eating that. I remember we were in Chester's, and I remember there was about, I would say, 10 of us. And I remember Julia very distinctly, and I remember Coach Weicker very distinctly. And we were just talking, interacting, all that jazz. And we went straight into preseason. We were training and all that. And I always remember Coach Weicker brings this up every once in a while, but how welcoming we were to him and just accepting of this new person. And I didn't understand that at the time, but for the older kids, the sophomore, juniors, and seniors, for them it was like a fresh breath, because they've gone through so many ups and downs through the program, so many different coaches, that for Coach Weicker to come on to the team and to this program was for them something like a huge blessing. And that's why they just welcomed him with open arms, because he was very nervous that he was going to come on and not be welcomed or not be accepted because he's the new guy around campus. Mind you, he has no connection to Gordon whatsoever. He was just saw the head coach position open and he just went for it.
Yeah.
And he did it because he loves to coach. Like, he didn't have to do it. He could have been a stay-at-home dad, but he loves to coach, so he wanted to continue pursuing his passion. And I have a lot of respect for that. My freshman year, we were only 15 people on the team for cross country. And we have grown that to over 40, I believe. It's a little over 40.
Yeah.
And I give him a lot of props for him because he's done a lot of the work. I've helped here and there with recruiting, but a lot of props to Coach Weicker for the amount of recruiting he's done and just the growth he's made on the team, because he changed my freshman year. It was this kind of like this running club, this like kind of like, oh, whatever, like there's a bunch of runners there, to this NCAA Division III cross country program. It's a varsity sport that's like respected now. And it's growing every year, and I'm excited to see where it'll go.
Yeah, I still remember the dinner the night before we went out for preseason my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you were an RA, so you couldn't go,
Yes.
but I remember you coming down and being amazed at how many people were on the team.
I was shocked. I was shocked because that was about, I think it was like double of what we had my freshman year. So the fact that we had so many new people on the team, for me, was just so relieving to see that this program's growing instead of decreasing.
Yeah, I think the freshman class alone was probably bigger than the whole team the year before.
I mean, and every year it's been like this. I feel like every year the senior class is the smallest class out of all the other classes. I mean, look at our past cross country season. We had like maybe 3 seniors at most. Like, we barely had any seniors, and we had a roster of 40-something.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it's great for the future of the program too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So, tell me about some of your favorite memories and meets and races that you've had here.
Oof. Okay, first one that popped up, this past meet was great. I really had a great time.
Sure.
So I think it was a great way to start my senior year track season. This past cross-country season was my best cross-country season to date as well. New England Championship, I feel like I performed. I did what I had to do. I surprised myself at Conference Championship as well, but I think the New England Championship will have a special place in my heart because of the energy, the crowd. My parents came up. My mom, my stepdad, my grandma, and my dog all came up, and they've never seen my races like that. And so to have them running around, screaming, all that jazz, it was really, really, I don't know, it was a really special moment. And the fact that I performed and went under 28 minutes, I think really meant a lot for me. And it felt great. I mean, running through the freezing cold, like, that's always a great cross country experience. And just the crowd and the energy, it was really, really good. I would say some other memories. SNHU last year, Southern New Hampshire University meet. I set my personal record in the steeplechase there, and it was such a great field. There was about 17 guys in the steeple, which never happens. There's only ever like 5 to 7 guys. So the fact that there were 17 and we were pretty competitive, I think I finished like 6th overall or 7th overall, and PR'd by about 10, 15 seconds. It was a really special moment.
That was a great meet for all of us.
Yeah, it was
a
really great meet.
A lot of school records being broken. Julie in the women's steeple as well.
That was special. That was a very, very special meet. Regis with Chandler, that also has a special place in my heart. Going 17:05 for the 5K. I wish I would have broken 17. Hopefully this year we'll see. But being able to just work with Chandler, I think that was one of the best moments we've had together, because it was like, 12 and a half laps, and he would take a lap, and then I would take a lap, and he would take a lap, and I would take a lap, where it just kind of pulled us through. He ran like 16:55, and I ran 17:05, and it was just like we both didn't realize we could do that, and the fact that we both were just gritty and we were just kind of going after it, I think it was really special. Aside from those, I would say the other memorable one would be I doubled last year in track in the 3K and 5K. That was tough. I wouldn't say the most memorable. It was definitely very tough, though. We had a New England Championship my sophomore year, and it was up in Groton, Maine. I think that's the area. It was on a golf course. It felt very official.
Cross country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like one of the most official meets I've ever raced in, because I've never raced on a golf course before, and the way it was set up, like they had flags scattered throughout the whole golf course, and it was very, very official with the NCAA regionals banners and everything like that. So that was a really cool moment. And other than that, another great moment is when I traveled to see Maddie and Damon Kilgore when they were performing their junior year on the track. Getting to see them perform on the track was super cool, and I traveled 3 hours to, what's that place? Williams. I think it was Williams. It was super cool to be able to see them compete. And for me, it's always cool to be the spectator for once, being able to cheer on my teammates and help them in any way possible.
What goals do you have for the rest of this year?
Oof, goals. We talk about the season?
Yeah, sure.
The season, yeah. I want to continue performing. Steeplechase, I definitely want to PR. I think I have the potential to PR. I don't see why not. I've been doing a lot of hurdle work as well with Ethan Mignard, and he's really, really helped me. I would say PR is definitely a goal, and it's a very reachable goal, I feel. A dream would be to get the school record in the steeple, which is at 10:10 or 10:09 right now. I don't know what the chances are there, but hey, that would be a dream. And if not, I don't beat myself up. I always try to adjust my goals throughout the season. So those are just some of the personal things that I have in mind.
Yeah, Wes Nelson, 10:09:61.
Yes,
from 2016.
Yep, sounds about right. I know Wes. I know Wes personally. Well, not personally, but I've met him in person, and so him and I actually we're right about where we were at the end of cross country season this past season. He was running about the same times I was running this past cross country season, so I feel like I'm set up in a really good position. I guess I just have to focus these next 2 months. Doing all the extra outside stuff like sleeping well, eating well, staying hydrated, stretching, core, all that jazz.
What is your PR?
It's a 39 or 40, something like that. So it's a little out there, but I dropped 20 seconds in a month from the 3K time trial we did to this past 3K. So I don't see why I can't get close.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're always going to go faster, I feel like, on an outdoor
100%.
track too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hungry too, so I want to see. I've been getting very hungry about this.
Yeah. Just get a good opportunity with good weather.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So God willingly it goes well. But I'm not gonna beat myself up if it doesn't happen. At the end of the day, I've seen myself improve every single year, and so I'm excited to see how far I can improve after college. To see what happens after college, because I'm excited to continue running after college. Another goal is to PR in the 5K. See, yeah. I'll probably get thrown in the 5K. Hopefully, I can go under 17. So.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was actually just thinking, getting ready for the show, I don't think I know your major.
Recreation, sport, and wellness, baby.
Okay.
Yeah, rec, sport, wellness, and business administration.
That's right, yeah. I knew you were in business somewhere. But, yeah, just tell me about what sparked your interest in that and what you want to do for a career after you graduate.
Yeah, so I would definitely say Pete Chatterton. Shout out to Pete Chatterton. He was the one who pushed me to recreation, sport, and wellness. He is Julia's husband, Julia Juricki's husband, and he got me into the rec major when I was a freshman, my second semester freshman year, because I came in as a business major and I hated it, completely hated it. And I came in The second semester I was pretty down about, education and academics and all that. And I was told, just give recreation, sport, and wellness a try. Partly because it was one of the only other majors that sound interesting. And I gave it a try. I went into the intro class, rec activity analysis with Dr. Jin. And Dr. Jin has changed my view on life. She is one of the best professors I've ever met and had, ever. She cares about each individual and like wholeheartedly cares deeply about you. And the way she teaches is very different, but she really gets her point across. And it's very impactful and it's very powerful. And I have a lot of care and love for her. I really do. And she's like one of the professors I can go to. And there's no other professors I feel connected like that to. Other than like faculty, but like professors, she's like one of the only ones I can go to like that.
Yeah, we did a podcast with Strauss a couple weeks ago, and he's another rec sports wellness major, and he said the same thing, that Dr. Jin's just amazing and really cares about her students.
Yeah, she's such an amazing woman. I mean, she's I think it's public news at this point that she is let go, but she's stuck around to graduate all her students, just showing that she cares more about us as people than anything else. It's rough being a recreation, sport, and wellness major on campus, knowing that your major isn't around, it's changing, whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day, it's like, this major, this woman is part of our personal growth and part of the reason why we are where we are today. I hate saying this, but business, it's done nothing for me personally. I'm only doing it because it's practical. I don't really care for it. I don't really love it. But, in our society today, in our world today, a business degree can get you anywhere. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper you need. But if I had to say, if I came to Gordon to study a passion, it's definitely rec, sport, and wellness. And I'm very passionate about it. I have no passion for business. But that's okay. I say follow your passions. Other people say, no, it's all about the money. And so some people do business for the money. And it's just not me.
Yeah. What kind of music do you like?
Oof, hip-hop, Latin. Well, those are my two go-tos. And everything and anything hip-hop, from old school to new school to underground to East Coast to West Coast to boom bap to funk to whatever you want to call it. Latin, similar. Salsa, old school salsa, new school salsa. Merengue, bachata, reggaeton, new school reggaeton, old school reggaeton, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you've got the playlist that you're playing every practice. But how'd you get into the genres that you're interested in?
Queens, New York, my city, born and raised. I was born in the heart of hip hop. I'm from the same neighborhood as 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj, Tribe Called Quest, LL Cool J, Mobb Deep, Nas, Action Bronson dropped out of my high school. Just all these different people who are from Queens alone. We're not even talking about New York City as a whole, but those people I just named are Queens alone. And so it's something you just grow up listening to, and you just grow up, how do I say, like you appreciate the art form, you appreciate the storytelling, you appreciate the character in these people, because these are people who made it out, in a sense, from our neighborhoods, made it out from, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's just like the art of storytelling is what drives a lot of people. The fact that we're able to tell our story through music and through rap, through poetry. Obviously, there's a lot of people who don't like rap. There's a lot of people who think it's trash, it's this, it's that, da, da, da. But I think people just aren't looking hard enough and aren't looking at the creativity that is out there. One of my idols in music is Joey Badass, and he's from Brooklyn. He's a little bit older than me, but when I was in high school, he dropped his first mixtape, and that thing blew up across New York City. People in the Bronx, people in Harlem, people in Brooklyn, New Queens were all bumping 1999, which was the mixtape he released, and it was like a fresh voice for hip hop, old school sound with a new school flavor. And so that's how I grew up listening to that. And at home, I listened to Latin music because that's what my parents listened to. And they love dancing. My parents are phenomenal dancers. They really like vibe with each other. And so it's something I grew up doing too. I grew up dancing salsa, and I grew up listening to salsa and Latin as well. And yeah, my parents love, they listen to me and they hear me out, and they love the hip hop music I listen to, and I love the Latin music they listen to. So it's like a back and forth.
Yeah. But you're not a country fan, is that right?
Oof. No, I like Lil Nas X. I think he's good.
Well, a lot of country fans would tell you Lil Nas X is not country at all, though.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I think.
Yeah, but
I think genres can definitely blend, and I think there's a lot of like genre bending music out there.
Sure.
Yeah. But if we're talking about true country, definitely, like Lil Nas X is definitely not true country.
Right.
And I don't know what you would define true country. I think of Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
But
I like Alan Jackson, Shania Twain. 90s I feel like I prefer 90s country to today. It's not that today's country is bad. I feel like there's a lot more crossover, as you were saying. But I feel like that's music in general nowadays.
The thing is, today's country is very poppy. I feel like it has a very poppy feeling. Like it's not like the traditional country that you hear. I mean, same thing with like hip hop. There's a genre called pop rap, or same thing with rock, where it's like it's more like radio friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, think Imagine Dragons. They call themselves a rock band, but like it has a pop sound to it.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I remember seeing when Old Town Road was blowing up, just scrolling through some of the YouTube comments, and one that got like the most thumbs up was saying, on the first day, Lil Nas X performed at the CMA Awards. On the second day, Billy Ray Cyrus performed at the BET Awards, and on the third day, there was World Peace.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about music, is that it could definitely bridge gaps where you wouldn't have thought gaps could be bridged. It's funny. Lil Nas X got a lot of people, a lot of minorities dancing to quote unquote country or acting country and whatnot. And people respect Billy Ray Cyrus for what he did with the song. I think, I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of people might hate it, but I think it was a really well done song. At least the Billy Ray Cyrus and Lil Nas X version, because I know there's like 4 other versions out there.
Yeah, so I just want to bring up briefly here as we close the show out. I know you mentioned at Saturday practice last week, you were asking me about Formula E. Of course, they have a race in Brooklyn now.
Yes, July 11th.
Yeah. You a motorsports fan at all? You keep up with anything?
Fun fact, I used to be a bit like such a huge NASCAR fan when I was like between 5th grade and 7th grade, I would say. Mainly because Juan Pablo Montoya used to race NASCAR. He was like, one of the only non-American racers. Yeah. And he just so happened to be a Colombian racer. So I followed him heavy when he was in NASCAR.
Yeah, we had Montoya and Marcus Ambrose was from Australia, but pretty much all the rest are from the States here.
Yeah, and so I followed NASCAR a lot. I would watch the Daytona 500. I would watch like every not every race, but I would definitely try to sit down every Saturday to watch the race and whatnot. And I kind of grew out of that phase. It was funny. My mom thought I would be a race car driver because I was very into it at the time. But I don't know. I kind of just grew out of the phase. I don't know if I grew out of the phase because of growing up or if because Juan Pablo Montoya left. Like, I just wasn't sure. But I think once I got into, I think it was right around the time I got into running that I started like moving away from motorsports. I still respect it. I actually went to my very first, I think it was ARCA.
Right.
Yeah.
The race that Riley Herbst won?
Yes. Yeah.
At Pocono.
Yeah, at the Poconos. That was my very first time at a racetrack.
What did you think?
It was a very loud experience. I never realized how loud racetracks can be. And so, but it was cool nonetheless. It definitely, I think that sport specifically has it's a very American sport. here in the United States. Like, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a single black driver. I don't think there's like a single.
There's one now.
There's one?
Yeah, Bubba Wallace.
All right, progress, I guess.
Yeah. Well, NASCAR's got a whole driver diversity campaign where they're trying to get minorities and more female drivers involved because Danica's retired now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yeah, Wendell Scott actually is in the Hall of Fame. He won a race back in the '60s.
Oh yeah.
And there was a controversy because think of the South in that time period. Yeah. There was a scoring error that was kind of invented out of thin air.
Yeah.
And so they announced another driver as the race winner.
Okay.
And it was only after a few hours after the race and all the papers had gone to press and everybody had left that they went ahead and gave a trophy and the win over to Wendell Scott.
Wow. I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, and there's been a few here and there. Actually, you have Netflix?
I do. I actually don't have Netflix, but I have access to it through people.
All right. I haven't seen it myself yet, but I've seen some chatter. There's a documentary called Uppity on Willie T. Ribbs, and he did a little bit of NASCAR. He also was the first black driver to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. Okay. And it's gotten great reviews.
That's really cool.
So he was a trailblazer. And yeah, just Bubba's come on in recent years. He's won a few truck races.
Gotcha.
Is now racing for Richard Petty's team in the Cup Series. Yeah. So have you been to the Formula E races in Brooklyn?
I have not, but I actually am trying to plan it for this summer.
You want to go this summer?
I mean, yeah. I think the concept and the idea of having races in cities, it reaches a crowd that's very different because
it does.
Your traditional motorsport race, you have to travel to get out there and to make it to even watch a race. But if you bring it to the city, I mean, you're gonna have all kinds of people kind of like taking a peek at what's happening over here. At least that's how I see it. And
I agree.
I mean, for example, me, I was away from motorsports for a very long time, and I recently started looking into Formula E, and because my mom every year she's like, "Yo, why don't we go to that Formula E race?" And like, I don't think much of it, but like, I was thinking about it this year, and I was like, you know what, like, it's literally like it's such a cool idea because it's in the middle of the city. Like, they close down the streets and all that just for this race, and they do the same thing for the New York City Marathon and for road races. So it's like. And it's literally like right in my backyard. Like, I don't see why I wouldn't be able to go. Like, why I shouldn't go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's not something you have to really like plan. It's not like a huge effort. All I have to do is hop on the subway and I'm like right there.
Yeah. Well, I went the first year that they had it in 17. So right before I came here to Gordon. And it's crazy how just in 3 seasons, that back in the day, the batteries. The sport was the series was brand new.
Yeah.
So you had drivers hopping out of their first car because their battery was dead and getting into their second car. But now the Gen 2 cars, the batteries last long enough to the point where they don't have to do that. So
yeah, I also I don't know why, but I am a very big I don't want to say advocate, but I think the idea of just electric cars and just I don't know if sustainability is the word or just this idea of being like more environmentally friendly. Like, I'm a big fan of technology and advances of technology. Like, I'm not like the most technologically savvy person, but I like, I love like, when a new phone comes out. Like, I will never get it, but I love like just hearing about it. Like, when new electric cars come out, I love hearing about it and reading up on it. Like, when like technology continues to advance, I think it's super cool. So the fact that there's a whole like, I guess what's like series that's solely electric cars to race. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Like, I'm excited to see where that can go in the future.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the criticisms at first was, especially back when, drivers had to get into their second cars, is people were saying, you're attacking F1 because of their massive carbon footprint. When you're racing all over the world, you've got to fly and transport twice as many cars that's because each driver has 2 cars. But now we don't have to do that, and now the technology continues to improve. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I wish there weren't. I don't know. It feels kind of gimmicky to me. It's
with
like
the crowd support.
And fan boost and attack mode. But I guess there's they're a brand new series. I guess there is a market for it, but I feel like that has kind of held them back. Like motorsports purists have had a hard time getting into it because, I don't know, when you have fans directly impacting the race, I don't know how I feel about that as a purist. But
I agree with that statement. I don't know. It sounds weird. I don't think it should be implemented at all. What I have heard, and I don't know if this is true, but what I have heard is that in this kind of series that the drivers like are able to, I guess, win, or they're able to like really get ahead based on driving skills and not just engine power or how the car is made. Because I think all the cars are very like similarly made, where like the battery is the same.
Well, in F1, it's called the Constructors Championship, the championship that's tallied by both cars for each team. And it's called that because each constructor actually builds the car from the ground up. They have to stay within regulations, obviously. But Formula E is just called a teams championship because there's a lot more overlap. So a spec series can have its detriments for various reasons, but it does put it more in the hands of the drivers if everybody's car is a little bit more equal. And that's something you don't see in F1 nowadays. Is you have to go back 7 years almost to see the last time a team other than Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull won a race. And in Formula E, there's easily 70-75% of the field could win on any given race weekend.
Which I think is super cool. I think it keeps people on their toes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, man, we're out of time. But I appreciate you. I know you're very busy, so taking an hour out this evening.
Worry about it.
Yeah, and let me know about this summer because I'd love to go back to Brooklyn to see the race again. So
I could definitely let you know.
We want to work something out.
Yeah, I'd be down. I think it'd be super cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, I still got to figure out my plans for this summer, but we'll see once I get those squared away.
Oh, same here. Trust me.
All right. Yeah, well, thank you all. If you're listening live, stay tuned. The Fresh Take with Will Lott next, right here on Scott Radio. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, y'all.